way, Jose.
Red I got you. Come subscribe, like. Come subscribe, like. Come subscribe, like. Come subscribe.
No way.
Now, finally, we are on to part 3. Just goes back to what I was already talking about before. They are already having a funeral for Quan. You know, Kreese is actually having some character development for once in the whole series. Wow. No, I'm just joking, but like he actually is showing remorse for the fact that Quan dies, and it's something that you would not expect off rip because of how Kreese is, but this is the moment that actually was going to change him. And I mean, I kind of had a theory that this could potentially happen, but I wasn't sure if they were going to go this direction. But you know, people already theorized it as well, so like, yeah, this was kind of inevitable. Now, all of episode 11 is just basically everyone kind of like trying to cope with the fact that, you know, they literally just saw like a student die and the tournament is over. So like they're trying to figure out what to do with their normal lives now. Now, obviously that's short-lived because of Terry talking to the announcer guy to get everything, you know, the Sekai Tekai reinstated. But, you know, instead of it being in Barcelona, it's in the Valley. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that he would even like consider reinstating the tournament in any capacity, given the fact that, you know, a student just died. And of course, Kim's grandfather is really pissed off because like he literally just lost one of his students because of Kreese. Like, yeah, I'd be pissed off not only at Kreese, but the students as well. And Kim, to be honest. Actually, more so the senseis than the students. The students are just, they didn't do anything. Now, that's not an excuse to torture Yoon and the rest of his students, but like, yeah. I think honestly, Terry Silver is probably the most manipulative person besides Kreese in this entire series. Like, he really got Johnny and Daniel on his side when it comes to bringing the tournament back on. Like, honestly, that's an accomplishment. I also love the scenes where Johnny is talking with Carmen about, you know, their future and the baby and stuff like that. And it's really just heartfelt. It's some of the most heartfelt scenes in the whole season, to be honest. I also like the scene where we get confirmation that Kimiko does not like Chosen, you know, not like that at least, but she does view him as a friend and a good friend, and she does love him, but obviously, you know, he did try to kill her, so it makes sense why she would, you know, feel the way she feels about him. And even though, you know, Amanda does get annoyed sometimes at Chosen constantly being around the house and getting in the way and stuff of that nature and just being loud and annoying, at the end of the day, she still cares about him. You know, she actually felt bad for the fact that Kimiko wasn't actually interested in him, just like Daniel. Obviously, they decide to cheer Chosen up, but while this is happening, you have Sam trying to talk to Tori to get her back into the tournament, not just for herself, but for Tori, because she actually cares. And again, this is one of the better scenes in the show. Like, these two, at least in this season, are great, honestly. Man, I love seeing them interact and actually be friends. I'm also glad that Dimitri, Hawk, and Miguel are trying to actually train Arabi, you know, to get him ready to fight Axel, because like, you know, nobody actually scored a point on him, and you know, he's one of the most overpowered characters in the series, like at this given point. So like, it makes logical sense. Like, you have to be prepared. I also really love that Carmen names the baby Laura, just like Johnny's mother, and that's just a really cool like little thing that they did. And honestly, I do like the whole sequence where everyone shows up and is just like there for her as the baby is born, and then they had like the pseudo marriage, like I mentioned earlier. Like, this is one of my favorite moments in the entire series, honestly. The next part is basically just, you know, the next episode where they're watching the, you know, segment about the Sekai Tekai on television. And, you know, it's just rage bait, honestly. Like, Johnny's getting pissed off because his interview was cut short. And, you know, Daniel's getting rage baited by Terry. And it's a whole thing. It's kind of funny, honestly. I mean, hell, even Zara's rage baiting Tori. I think it's funny. I also really love the conversations that Kreese has with not only Tori, but Johnny, just apologizing for everything that he's ever done and really showing remorse for just being this type of person, this guy who's just so, you know, filled with trauma and just like anguish, and anger and resentment, and just taking it out on literally everyone else. He caused the death of Quan. He's, you know, brainwashed Robbie. He's brainwashed Tori. He's just caused so much turmoil for everyone, you know, Johnny. And this is why I feel like, you know, Kreese's arc throughout this whole season is a lot more satisfying than anything that Silver does. Not to say that Terry Silver isn't a good villain. I think he's very entertaining, and he was good in season 5 as well, and season 4. Season 4 was probably his best in terms of like writing wise, but like season 5 was also really good, and season 6, I feel like they're kind of just dragging out his storyline. But Kreese, I feel like they really needed this. Like, this was a good conclusion for his character. And then he eventually, sacrifices himself to kill Terry, and I love the whole segment. But just talking about the apology for now, I do just really like how, even though he does apologize, he's not rewarded immediately. Like, Johnny is still very apprehensive to forgive him, and he just wants to see Robbie fight in the Sekai Tekai. And of course the tournament starts and everyone's all excited and stuff like that. Well, except Robbie, because, yeah, he knows he's gonna get cooked. But surprisingly, he actually does pretty well, and everyone's excited for him. Amanda's like screaming, talking about kick some ass. Like, honestly, I think it's really just a cool moment where you finally get to see Robbie's prime. This is the strongest he's ever been, and he's going toe to toe with Axel, which is surprising because like before he wasn't doing shit. But like once the training sequence happened and he got, a little bit more accustomed to how he fights, he was able to do a lot better. Obviously, Axel switched things up and stuff like that, but he was holding on and he did really well until Axel cheated. And honestly, if Axel didn't cheat, then Robbie definitely would have won. Like, I really have my money on him. And even Robbie knows that. And, everyone was trying to, look out for him, just trying to, like, console him after, he just got his leg broken. And it's like, honestly, I do really feel bad for him because, like, I wanted him to win, even though I want Miguel to, beat Axel as well, because Axel's just been a prick the whole season. Obviously, again, I under the whole story, the sensei and everything like that, but, like, he's still an asshole for no reason, specifically towards Miguel. I also really like this scene because it kind of reminds me of season 1 where he was fighting Miguel and, he got his shoulder injured and he was talking to Daniel and, he had the injury, just thinking about like how he was going to win, just like worried about everything. And it's just like, I really like, scenes like that where it's more calm and it's more like, focused on the character moments and, just characters trying to like actually uplift each other. And I love stuff like that. Even in this season, you have a scene like that in the locker room with like all the kids when they were in the Sekai Tekai at Barcelona. I also really like, and this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the series as well. Again, a lot of them are in season 6. Even though I have been very critical of season 6, it has a lot of like some of the best stuff, honestly, that the show has ever given us. Mainly the character stuff, the character moments. And I really just love when Robbie is talking about the fact that he loves the fact that he has a father now, like he can reconcile with Johnny, and he has more friends now, like he made up with Miguel, like they're not enemies anymore. He has a loving girlfriend, like he has a family aspect. Even though he did not win the tournament, his life isn't over, essentially. The thing is, sadly, Kwan's life is over, and he put everything into karate and everything into winning the tournament, and it meant nothing. And that really goes back to what Tori was talking about in the previous conversation in episode 10, where she was essentially talking about the fact that a lot of people will put so much stock into being the best, only for it to mean nothing. And even Daniel's having that dream where, he's, dreaming about Miyagi and, the whole Karate Kid 1 sequence when Miyagi defended him against the skeletons. And that's why this episode is literally called Skeletons. Because essentially, like, he's thinking about the fact that he wants to, bring his teachings to the world. But the problem is Miyagi would have never wanted that. He has to remember that at the end of the day. And also to remember the fact that Miyagi is a good guy and he has reasons for doing everything, which ties into the fact that, he kept the fact that, he killed a guy during the Sekai Tekai, and the fact that he, stole the necklace, which obviously I already said it was justified. It's about fighting for what's right, and at the end of the day, the karate is for defense only, and that's what Miyagi-Do stands for. And bringing it to the world is not, how you do that, essentially. At least not in this way, winning the Sekai Tekai. That's not necessary. I also do like at the end of this episode, we actually do get the conversation with Kreese and Johnny opens his heart to him, just talking about how he treated him so badly and how Kreese just like ruined his life, essentially. And, they hug, and, that's the first time. That's actually some of the best acting in the whole show. Like I said, Peyton List did well with, her being cast as Tori. And, she did well, when, Tori's mother died, but this is on par with that, honestly. And like it's one of the best scenes in the show. And of course we get the big reveal because Kreese allowed Johnny to have control of Cobra Kai again. So Tori is going to be in Cobra Kai again, and Miguel Diaz. Now, the next episode is basically just Johnny and Daniel, and you're just reminiscing about everything that's happened. You know, you get that shot where you get the strike first, strike hard, no mercy, you know, sign, and you get to see those two, you know, on the opposing sides. And that's actually a parallel to like what happened in season 1, where Daniel obviously first found out that Cobra Kai was being reinstated because of Johnny opening it back up. And now we're seeing that Johnny actually wants to encourage him to, you know, fight in the Sekai Tekai for not only, you know, himself, but like Miguel and Tori. And Daniel understands that just because his name Cobra Kai doesn't mean that inherently it has to be evil, because Johnny's under, you know, the tutelage of all these people, so he can actually teach them properly. And Daniel's, you know, made peace with that. And then they're just preparing for the tournament for the rest of the episode, you know, and I really like that sequence where Johnny and Miguel are talking, and he's basically just encouraging him not to focus on anger necessarily, and to focus on, you know, just doing what is right, and, you know, winning the tournament to solidify that Cobra Kai is, you know, is significantly different than what Kreese made it initially, and that the original Cobra Kai is Johnny Lawrence and is his version of, you know, Cobra Kai, and just how he teaches and everything like that. When these two are on screen, it just makes the show like significantly better, because these are two literally like some of the best characters in the series. And honestly, I'm just really thankful that we got this show, man. Like, we finally get to see some of the best characters in the show interacting and just, you know, just showing how far they've come. Like, you know, Miguel's going to be All Valley, or not just an All Valley champ, but a Sekai Tekai, like, champion. And Johnny is going to be the same. Like, he was an ace degenerate, and now he's an ex degenerate. And even Sam and Tori are getting along, and, you know, Sam is actually trying to teach Tori the drum technique, very similar to how Sam taught Miguel the drum technique in season 3. And then all that training and all that hard work finally pays off when Tori beats the hell out of Zara in the next sequence. And, you know, basically it's just a Sekai Tekai, you know, continuing, and, you know, she has her battle, and, you know, we really get that awesome moment where Robbie's, you know, encouraging her, and he says that he loves her, and then they kiss, and then, you know, that gives her basically a power, like a, not even a rage amp, it's like a love amp, or however you want to put it. It gives her a boost, basically. And honestly, Zara's a fraud. Like, we all knew it, to be honest with you. Like, she was trying to pose as this badass, and also this, like, you know, female influencer who was, like, inspiring young, you know, women and stuff like that. It's like, no, she's a fraud. She's terrible. And honestly, Tori beating the hell out of Zara is one of the most entertaining and satisfying things in the entire show. It's on the same level as, like, some of the best fights in the series. And honestly, one of them I would include, Robbie versus Quan. I also love how after her fight, Terry's trying to rage bait Daniel as if he gives a damn about Miyagi-Do not competing in the Sekai Tekai. And he literally just tells him, like, Cobra Kai never dies. So he does not give a damn. And it shows, like, not just how much Daniel's progressed as a person, and how much he's grown, and how much, you know, development he's had with not only, you know, other characters, but Johnny as well, and just, like, accepting Cobra Kai, like, his version of Cobra Kai. But it just shows how much Terry as a person has regressed, and how much this karate nonsense, and the rivalries, and the resentment, and the hatred has destroyed him as a person. It's made him so cold, calculated, and just, like, mean. And then the next fight, and what you would think is the last fight, is Miguel versus Axel. And honestly, this again is one of the most satisfying fights in the entire show. It's not nearly as good as like the Robbie versus Axel fight, the Robbie versus Quan fight, or the Tori versus Zara fight, but I think this fight is satisfying mainly because we finally get to see Axel lose, and we even get that scene just to commemorate like just everything Miguel has learned, and you know, just like everything that he was talking about with the conversation with Johnny, just like fighting for himself, but not only that, just for Cobra Kai, like everything that, you know, they fought for. And honestly, I'm kind of a sucker for like when shows add flashbacks in the middle of like important moments, is to show you just how much has happened throughout the series, and just like how much these characters have grown. Like I love that they have those in this fight. Now it does slow down the fight a bit, and I kind of don't like it as much as an actual fight, but I like what it represents more so, and that's why it's good. And then the tradition for when two dojos have the same amount of points, apparently, you know, the senseis have to fight. So Johnny gets a chance to beat the hell out of Wolf, and honestly, I'm here for it. Now, I said this earlier, but I'm glad that Kreese actually sacrificed himself in that the next moment where, Terry's on the boat and he's willing to just do all this, crash out stuff to, Johnny and his baby and stuff like that. And Kreese just completely stops him, and, obviously sacrifices have to be made, so he dies, but then he kills Terry, while doing it. Honestly, I think it's a really good end for Kreese, and I'm glad he finally got to do something good for Johnny and basically everyone else by just getting rid of Terry completely. Now, the next and final episode of the entire series is called X Degenerate. Now, it's basically just commemorates every single character that's, been in the show, that's been the main character. Miguel, Robbie, Tori, Sam, Johnny, Daniel, Amanda, Carmen, even Dimitri, Hawk, like everyone. This is the final show, or their final episode, and just the final, 49 minutes of the series. And honestly, I love everything that this episode does. We even get a sequence in the beginning of the episode where we get to see a flashback of just, his thoughts about his life and just like everything that, he missed out on and stuff of that nature. And then we flash back to present day where he's still, worried about just where his life is headed. He has a baby, and he's just trying to build a life for her and, for Carmen and Miguel, and just like trying to keep this family together while also worrying about the fight. I also like that Daniel and Johnny are training together, and Daniel essentially says, like, it doesn't matter if you win or not. It matters that you fight, you actually stand up for what you believe in, and stand up for your dojo. And they actually mention Rocky with this as well. It's another Rocky reference. Like, the whole point behind this is, like, you don't have to win to prove that you are worth something. And the thing is, with Robbie, he lost, but he's worth a lot. Like, like he has a family, friends, a girlfriend, like he has everything he could ever want, regardless if he won the Sekateka or not. And honestly, I just like where everyone was left off. Like, Miguel got into Stanford, Sam got to do her thing, outside of the valley in Okinawa, where Miyagi was, and he lived for a long time. And, Tori and Robbie get to have their thing where they're basically going to be karate professionals, and they're going to get paid for it as well. I would say I'm happy for Dimitri, but I'm really not. I mean, I'm glad that Yasmin, and him are happy, I guess, but like, Dimitri is the worst character in the show, so that's whatever. And honestly, the whole fight between Wolf and Johnny is, definitely, it has a little bit of tension. Obviously, Johnny's gonna win, so it's not as good as like the other fights with the kids, but it's still a good moment, honestly. You even have moments where, even before this, he was trying to punk him out, like Wolf was trying to intimidate Johnny and stuff like that, but it's like, at the end of the day, like, Johnny's still gonna stand on his feet. Like, he's gonna land on his feet, and he's still gonna win. Like he's the main character. Obviously, he's not gonna lose. Like, they're not gonna do some sort of like subversion of like, we knew he was gonna win. I also like how everyone was in Cobra Kai gis, just like, representing Johnny, supporting him and supporting his version of Cobra Kai as well. And eventually, from everyone's support and Daniel's support, he eventually defeats Wolf, and he wins. He gets to hold up the trophy, everyone commemorates him, and, it's basically the complete opposite of what happened in Karate Kid 1. And honestly, this is one of the best scenes in the show. Like, you could honestly say it's the best, because it's literally what the show is about. Redemption, standing up on your feet, after you've been knocked down, and fighting for what's right. I'm also glad that Chosen and Kim are going to be happy together, forever, because obviously Kimiko, wasn't into him like that. So, I'm glad he had a good ending overall. And honestly, Chosen has been one of the most interesting ideas for the show, because at first, he obviously was the antagonist for the second movie, but seeing him grow as well is on the same level as Johnny, because he was a huge, like, very powerful and very, feared antagonist. And just seeing him grow from like where he used to be is just so satisfying. I also love that last scene, where Johnny gets to see, his mother's grave again, Laura's grave, and he puts the picture of not only Carmen with the baby, but Miguel himself and Robbie, and it's just like, that's such a wonderful moment. Like, I love this episode. And the last scene in the show is basically just Johnny teaching Cobra Kai, and he's basically showing that not only do you need to learn Cobra Kai sometimes, but you also need to learn Miyagi-Do, and that life, you need to have balance. Sometimes you need to have defense, sometimes you need offense, and that really is, exemplified by like everything in the show. And I'm really glad that we get to see what strike first, strike hard, no mercy means to Johnny at this given point at the end of the show. Because at the beginning, it was basically just Kreese's version of Cobra Kai, but now it's his version. And that's it. That is the end of Cobra Kai. Now, I know this is a very long-winded video, and I know I talked for a long time, but I'm glad, if you did stay tuned for the whole thing, you actually watched it all the way through, and then just like skip, parts. I thank you. I really am, glad that I have such loyal fans and, or subscribers, or however you want to put it. Like, I'm really glad that, you guys love the show just as much as I do. And I really just wanted to talk about all this because, not only has the show done a lot for me, but it's done a lot for a lot of people. And, I will say it spoke to me specifically just because, it was a show that, had a lot of like great themes in terms of like, sacrifice, how much you'll do to be the very best. And just like, it's a coming of age story, not just for Johnny, but for Miguel as well. This is one of the best shows I have ever watched in my life. And honestly, it's changed a little bit too. Now, I have all these, wonderful, viewers and stuff like that. And honestly, I hope you guys are ready for the future because I'm going to be making so much more content. I'm going to be making it a lot more often. I promise to that, like 2026, I'm definitely going to lock in. Comment, subscribe, like, and just, stay tuned for more content. It's coming very soon. I'm also going to break up these parts into videos just in case you want to just refer back to each part individually. And that's all I have to say for today. And, I'll see you guys later. Peace.
No way, Jose.
Red Hot Gotchi, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe.